and welcome to Top 5 Mondays, which will actually be a top 10. And I did say at the beginning of the series that I would reserve the right to do a top 5 or a top 10, because sometimes it would be a category where I just feel like I have to put more in there, and this one was definitely one, and it is top 5 science fiction movies. Did I say top 5 then? I meant top 10. Okay, before we get started and into the top 10, I want to give you some kind of honourable mentions and also films that I've disqualified from this list. You may remember I've said in the past that if I've already done a film as in a top 5 list, I want to kind of just not include that, such as Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I've already told you that those are my favourite films of all time, so it would just be pointless to include it in this list, and it would make it more interesting to include another film that I really love. The Thing, another great film, which is science fiction, but I think of it as more of a horror film, and also Aliens, which was my #1 favourite sequel of all time a few weeks ago. So again, I'll not include that one. You just take that as read that I love that film. Honourable mentions: Serenity, the 2005 big screen adaptation, or continuation rather, of Joss Whedon's Firefly series, which was awesome. I saw that in the cinema when it came out, and I just thought it was like a new Star Wars. It was brilliant. E.T., classic, you know, childhood favourite. Predator, awesome. Arnie, 90s or 80s actually, action and just cheesiness, but also really kind of violent and everything. The Abyss, James Cameron, I love that movie, but it's not quite there in the top 10. And Gravity, which is just fantastic, amazing film from this year. That is not in my top 10 because I haven't had time to really fully kind of put down my thoughts on it. I want to see how it holds up when you watch it at home as opposed to in the cinema before I really kind of put it in the top 10 of my favourite science fiction films. So without further ado, let's get right into the proper top 10. 10. 12 Monkeys. Great film by Terry Gilliam. Time travel is involved, Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt. It's quite a complicated plot to go into, so I'm not going to kind of really talk about that much, but if you've seen it, you know what I mean. I love it. I can see people not liking it, I can get that, but for me, and the way it ties in at the end of the film is brilliant. There's just something about it. There's just something about the mood of it, the atmosphere, the way that the kind of future is portrayed, and again the time travel elements, and just the different kind of variations of things that go on. It's hard to explain again without going into too much detail, but for me 12 Monkeys is brilliant. 9. Looper, quite a recent one, came out 2012 by Rian Johnson, one of my favourite directors going at the moment. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis playing the same character, both a young and older version. Again, time travel, again Bruce Willis. This is a really original movie. I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. Emily Blunt's also in this. There's also a child actor in this who is fantastic. He really blew me away, and is one of the most impressive things about the film. And overall, I just loved everything about it. The aesthetic of the future, it wasn't too much, you know, and the blunderbuss guns were awesome, and it didn't go too far with the futuristic stuff, as I said. And the time travel, the way they kind of made Joseph Gordon-Levitt look a bit like Bruce Willis was different. I can get that people were thrown off by it, but I really enjoyed it, and the film itself was just awesome. One of my favourites of 2012, and definitely one of my favourite science fiction films. 8. Total Recall. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one by Paul Verhoeven. I love this film so much. It's just, there's so much about it that I love. I love the whole feel of it, going to Mars, and the kind of idea of implanting memories in your head to make you feel like you've experienced something that you never would experience otherwise. There's a real kind of escapism and fantasy to that, and then of course just what actually happens and how it all pans out, and you know the questions that come up throughout the story. You know, is it real? Is it not real? And you know, I love all that stuff if it's done well, and it's really done well in this movie. And it's violent. It's 18, R-rated. Great action. Great Arnie one-liners. Just great Arnie moments in general. One of my favourite Arnold Schwarzenegger films, without a doubt. And some really creepy stuff. You know, like you know, is it Quato, the little kind of man inside someone's stomach or sticking out someone's stomach? Oh, creeps me out. Open your mind. Oh, creepy, really creepy. And of course the classic scene of Arnold pulling this kind of thing out of his brain through his nose. It's just his eyes popping out as the as his helmet gets smashed in the atmosphere of Mars. There's a lot of really cool practical effects, and probably one of my favorite movie quotes of all time. "See you at the party, Richter." 7. The Matrix, 1999's The Matrix by the Wachowski brother and sister. A brilliant kind of groundbreaking film that kind of took, I wouldn't say fight choreography, but took the way you film fights to a whole new level. A lot of wire work and bullet time, which they pretty much invented for this film. The use of many different cameras in a kind of almost 300, I think it is a 360-degree environment, to kind of give you kind of effects that you'd never seen before, and taking a lot of the digital effects that were becoming really kind of prominent in the 90s and just pushed it into the new millennium, literally. And it's just a movie that had so much hype, and it really lived up to it, and it's just one of those things that I'll always associate with movies going into the next kind of the next millennium, you know. I mean, I think that was one of the first movies that came out on DVD, or one of the first readily available movies on DVD. That was like the main selling, like DVD, The Matrix, you know. I remember at Christmas, you know, people were getting DVD players, not me, but people I knew, and The Matrix was one of the ones that were like, oh, that's the one you got to see on DVD. So, and I love Keanu Reeves in it, love Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss. The whole cast is great. There's just a great kind of feel to it. It's absolutely brilliant. A really great film. The music's fantastic. The fights are awesome. Every time I watch it, I go, oh, I forgot how good this was. 6. Now this is one I have repeated from the top 5 sequels, but I had to because you just can't leave it off this list. It is The Terminator and Terminator 2, both a joint tie for number 6. They're both so great for many different reasons, but you know, the first one's darker. Well, they're both dark. I've gone over this before, but you know, they're both very different films, yet they're very, you know, they're linked. They're definitely linked, and just the way James Cameron was able to make these two amazing films that are, again, in some ways completely different, in some ways completely the same, but they're both just awesome and really embody what a science fiction classic should be, in my opinion. Absolutely awesome. I don't need to go into too much detail. It's all with these two movies. Everyone's seen them. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, classic. 5. Inception, Christopher Nolan's 2010 movie, the one he made between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, was just awesome. I mean, The Dark Knight really gave Christopher Nolan leeway to go off and make Inception, and for Warner Bros. To give him all this money to play with, and he pulled it off big style. Inception's just mind-bending, I guess, is the cliched term to use, but it is definitely rings true with this movie. You got a great cast as well: Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Marion Cotillard. There's more. There's definitely more. Michael Caine, you know, Cillian Murphy. Brilliant cast, and just a brilliant movie. I mean, again, how much can you explain quickly in a video? The way it kind of goes into dreams and dreams within dreams, and the way they all kind of is held together right in front of your eyes. I mean, it's a very, very tricky plot to pull off, and Nolan just seems to do it with such ease, like he does with films like The Prestige and Memento. Absolutely awesome. One of my favourite films of the past few years. The music is brilliant as well, and again, that ending that everyone talks about, I love how that kind of plays out. I love how the whole movie plays out. It's just epic, awesome. I mean, you know, how many more words like that can I throw at it, really? Inception definitely deserves to be on this list. 4. Gattaca, which I believe was from 1997 and was directed by Andrew Niccol. And this stars Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. I believe they met on this film. They would later become a couple. I loved this movie. Saw it for the first time this year on Blu-ray, and it just blew me away. I loved everything about it. I mean, again, I'm not going to go into the plot of these too much, but Ethan Hawke is a guy who's really trying to go into space, basically. But he lives in this kind of this futuristic world. Well, it's not futuristic, it's in the future, but it's in a time where gene kind of manipulation is going on, and anyone that would have a disease or something wrong with them, they never happen. And Ethan Hawke was one of those people who kind of crept through, and you know, his genes aren't as good as, say, his brothers, and he meets Jude Law in the film, and they basically strike up a deal for him to kind of take on Jude Law's identity with as someone who has all these genes, but Jude Law can't walk. He's in a wheelchair, so he can't do the things that having perfect genes allows him to do. So Ethan Hawke and Jude Law, they strike up this relationship in which he can kind of trick the system, trick the government into him getting onto this space program, and it's brilliant. There's a kind of 40s kind of feel to it, or 50s, 40s, 30s, that kind of era, while still being a little futuristic, and there's like a romanticism about it as well. And I just loved everything about it. It really, really just surprised me and shocked me. And it's, again, science fiction. When I think science fiction, that film will always crop up from now on. I loved it, absolutely loved it. 3. Another movie that I only saw this year, can you believe it? Blade Runner. I did actually buy this on video from a pawn shop. That's P-A-W-N. And, oh, what do you call it here? Or not here, in the UK, what was it called? Just like a second-hand shop, there was a word for it. I was saying pawn shop just to be general, but that's not what we called them. I guess just second-hand shop. That was a pointless waste of time. I got it on video, turned it on for half an hour, did not get it as a kid. Just turned it off, it was boring, didn't like it. Got the Blu-ray. Watched it this year, oh, blew me away. Absolutely loved it, and I feel like I've said absolutely loved a lot, but this is my top 10 favourite, so obviously I'm going to be using words like that, but everything about it. The production design, Sid Mead, is just absolutely incredible. The music by Vangelis just brings a whole other kind of otherworldly feel to it. Harrison Ford, stoic as ever, but very kind of a very good lead for the film, and this kind of weird noir kind of super futuristic style of, but yet at the same time believable and lived in, the kind of thing that Ridley Scott, the director, thrived in kind of putting on the screen and managing and coordinating and directing. And what's her name? The girl in it, the female lead. Oh God. Finkel and Einhorn and Finkel. What's her name? Sean Young, right? Okay. I liked her in this film. She's playing a replicant, which is this, a synthetic kind of human, who's not real, but is very much appears to be real, which is kind of basically the theme of the movie. And again, I won't go into detail with these, but her acting was perfect for the role, I thought, and I really enjoyed her part in it, and there's a lot of great actors in the movie as well. And of course you got what's his name again? Hobo with a Shotgun. Oh, Rutger Hauer, however you pronounce his name. He was again magnetic as the lead kind of replicant villain. I thought he was just charismatic and just fantastic, awesome. Blade Runner, but yeah, Blade Runner just has to be on the list. For me, it just really popped out as science fiction, personified. And actually, while I'm here now, just to quickly throw this in, I've just remembered another film that should definitely be an honourable mention. It's a great film, but I don't enjoy it that much. It's not one I'd watch over and over again, but 2001, A Space Odyssey is a real classic. Anyway, moving on. 2. Alien. Yes, Aliens is one of my favourite films of all time. Alien is not up there, but I've been watching it a lot lately, or watching a lot of the documentaries and the commentaries, and I watched it again as a film. Alien is just an absolute masterpiece. Again, it's more, I don't know, is it more of a science fiction or more of a horror? Who can say? But for me, when you talk about science fiction, that is a movie that just takes it to a whole other level. Again, with the production design, the design of the alien itself, and the ship by H.R. Giger, it's just so creepy, and just Ridley Scott, just I'm almost speechless just trying to even convey how much I love this movie. Which again, why do I prefer Aliens? Maybe I don't feel like Aliens maybe has as good of a look and production design. Well, I don't know. It's a tough thing. Choosing between Alien and Aliens, it's like choosing between kids, I would imagine. I love both of them so much, but for me, again, just putting Aliens out of the picture because it's one of my all-time favourite films. Alien has got to be there near the very top, because it stands head and shoulders above the rest in terms of just portraying life in space. Again, it's like they always say it, truckers in space. It's lived in, it feels real, and it's creepy, you know, and just believable. You know, like those shots of the alien planet through literally video cameras, and it puts you in that moment. It really is almost found footage before found footage, you know. And James Cameron implemented the same kind of thing in Aliens with a lot of the video cams and stuff. We didn't see found footage films before that, as far as I'm aware. So that's really what I think, you know, it puts you in there, and that's a small part of a huge kind of plethora of things that are great about the movie. Of course, Sigourney Weaver being the amazing lead that she was in the film. But again, I could go on forever, so I'll just cut it short. But Alien for me, number 2. 1. For me, you know, my favourite science fiction film, and I almost wondered whether or not I should class this as a science fiction, but it definitely is science fiction. It's a movie that I absolutely adore. I've met one of the lead kind of actors in this film, and it was a very special moment for me. And I put a video up on my channel a couple of years ago now talking about the whole experience. It is Back to the Future. This movie just has everything. It's one of my all-time favourite films, in my top 5 favourites. Back to the Future is funny. It's really genuinely funny. You know, it brings a smile to your face. Then there's also the element of romance. You know, of Marty and his girlfriend, Marty played by Michael J. Fox, and his girlfriend Jennifer. And then you've got, you know, George McFly and Lorraine McFly, you know, as teenagers and their love, and it's a film in which a son is put in the situation of being around his mother as a teenager, and his mother wants to get in his pants. And not for a moment do you feel uncomfortable about that fact. And just the fact that they pulled that off is a big achievement. It ends up being quite sweet, and I don't know how they did that. It's got great music. It's got a great dramatic, in my opinion, relationship in it between Doc and Marty. It's one of my favourite film relationships, you know, ever. I just love their kind of their dynamic as two characters and as two actors on the same side of that coin. And well, there's something else that's really, you know, the science fiction, you know, the time travel, you know, that is, it's done to perfection in my opinion. I mean, just everything about it, going back to 1955, and it would get a lot more complicated and honed in the second and third film when the timelines get confused. But the first one is fairly straightforward. It is the best one, and it is so self-contained, and you know that you could just look at that and say that is a classic movie in my opinion. I don't get it when people say that it's rubbish. My mum thinks it's stupid, and I just want to smack her. It's an amazing movie. Got everything: comedy, romance, action, you know, sci-fi. There's a bit of dramatic tension in there, and well, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like the most dramatic movie ever, but you know, it's poignant and just everything about it. It's just so I'll go out and say it is a perfect film for me, because there's not a wasted moment. There's not a moment where I kind of feel like skipping. It is just enjoyable from start to finish. I don't know what more I can say about Back to the Future that I haven't already said in the past. So there you go. That's my top 5, top 10 even, as I've changed it because there's so much to talk about. My top 10 science fiction movies. What are your top 10 or top 5 science fiction movies? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Why? Let me know. Don't just tell me to shut up like some woman did on my Batman video. And let me know if you don't like the video. Feel free to dislike it, but let me know why. I'm interested to hear your opinions, and hey, even make a video of your own. I'd love to see that as well. So thank you for watching. Next week will probably be just a top 5. I'm going to try and do Christmas movies as we're getting close to Christmas now, but I haven't really seen that many Christmas movies. I haven't seen the classics, so I might try and squeeze in a few before next week, but that'll be the plan for the video next week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool. Even though I'm sure he's a quite nice guy, really. He's a quite nice guy, really.